Hello and welcome to Objective Health. My name is Erica and I'll be hosting today. Joining me in the virtual studio is Elliot, Doug, Tiffany, and in the background we have Damien.
Yeah.
Hello.
So today we're going to dive deeper into the abyss, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, of the future of food, and kind of carrying over from last week's discussion about Project Salus and AI and data mining and all the wonderful things that are happening in this time that we live in. We figured we'd just have a discussion. And what's kind of interesting is I went back through some old articles that we carry on SOT.net. And one of them I found was called 6 Ways Food is Being Used as a Weapon. And this was actually written back in 2011. But it's very telling about what we're experiencing right now. So in the introduction to this article, the author talks about hungry people will do anything for food, which means that those who have control over our food can use it as leverage. And in 1974, Henry Kissinger suggested using food as a weapon to induce targeted population reduction in a previously classified report, 200-page report called the National Security Memorandum 200, Implications of Worldwide Population Growth for U.S. Security and Overseas Interests. And the primary tactic is to be applied is that food aid would be withheld from developing nations until they submitted to birth control policies. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole idea of eugenics about this, but basically what the author is saying is that food being used as a method of colonization control, these kinds of tactics only really work as a blunt weapon on territories or countries during and enduring a severe economic collapse with little resources for food production. And hello, we're in those times right now. Because of massive consolidation of corporate agriculture, centrally coordinated global regulations, which we talked about in last week's show, and a devalued commodity dollar and unrestrained commodity speculation, real or manipulated food shortages, which we've all just experienced. There's a war being waged, and food is the primary weapon. And this article goes into 6 different ways. They talk about food inflation, which we've seen, shortages, which we've seen, chemical additives, which we've been talking about for years, more regulation, genetic modification, of course, is in there. And then number 6 is the weather. So, as a farmer, all these things really play into the future viability of being able to produce and actually distribute and get food out to people. And it's pretty scary stuff. You realize when you read that this stuff was being written about in 2010 and the steps that have been happening along the way. We watched this with genetic modification, people's demanding a right to label, and we thought we had this huge victory. And then, these corporations really are like 10 steps ahead of the game. It's almost like they plan strategically how they're going to get people to accept such a sinister kind of distorted agenda. And, with GMO in particular, like now you can buy so many products that say GMO free and this, that, and the other thing. But I'm wondering now if these are all just kind of a bait and switch, to people just generally read headlines. They don't really do their due diligence. And one of the things that we're seeing is this mass taking over of every major company. And I think, Doug, you have the image behind you, but basically like 4 or 5 corporations control 85% of the food around the
Mm-hmm.
world, production, distribution, all of that. So it's consolidation that's happening at a rapid scale, and we're just not really seeing it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, since that article's been written, other things that have kind of come in. Like I'm reminded of that, it was a few months ago, I guess, that George Monbiot wrote that article for The Guardian that was talking about how the future of food would be basically farmless and that everything would be grown in vats in labs and all food would basically, we would no longer have to do our destructive process of farming the land, and everything would just come from the lab. Which I think, back in 2011 when they wrote that article, they didn't necessarily see that coming. I don't think anybody really saw that coming. Maybe people back in the 50s were dreaming about people taking a pill and that would be all the nutrition that they needed for the entire day, but it was always kind of just in the realm of science fiction. But now
Mhm.
the rise of fake food, I think, is something that wasn't necessarily on the radar back then. When we would talk about fake food, you'd be talking about processed food. But now, the kind of stuff that's coming out now, like the fake meat and the lab grown meat and like fake this and fake that, it's really scary because, combined with what we were talking about in last week's show, if there is a complete and total um, control of the food system, top to bottom, it's like you won't have any say in what you get to eat. You won't be able to say, no, I don't want to eat the fake meat. I want to eat a real steak. It's like, no, you don't have a choice. This is what you get. This is your allotted protein requirement for the week.
Or if you think that you can support quote unquote health food industries, or
Hmm.
one thing that's been written about is that the whole health food industry has been completely taken over as
Hmm.
well. So over the past 20 years, Whole Foods Market has acquired almost all of its competition, and the chain dominates the market, and it really has no national competitor. And
Mhm.
I'm just looking at an article called "Big Corporations Have an Overwhelming Amount of Power Over Our Food Supply," and this was written by the Economic Collapse blog back in 2014. So, you think, well, I'm not interested in fake food, so I'm just going to buy health food. I'm just going to support, Whole Foods, Amazon, whatever. But over the past 5 years, so again, this was back in 2014, but gross sales have increased by half, so 47%, to the tone of almost $12 billion in the health food industry. And one way they've kind of achieved this is by selling conventional foods under the guise or the false illusion that they're better than the regular grocery store food. And so
Hmm.
we see this a lot, like Doug was talking about, the rise of the Impossible Burger, the rise of
Mhm.
the whole vegan push, or if you don't want the Impossible Burger, what's the other one you get? You have that
Beyond
other
Burger.
choice.
Beyond
Yeah, the
Burger.
Beyond Burger, right? So it's again this whole control. And one of the biggest food distributors of natural food or health food in the United States is called United Foods International, and they control all distribution of all organic and natural foods.
Hmm.
So this is a big deal.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of the supplement industry too. In the face of the supplement industry, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to take supplements because I don't want to deal with all that big pharma stuff, and I'm going to put my dollars towards these supplements." Well, the supplement industry, I mean, I don't know the figures off the top of my head, but it's overwhelmingly controlled by the pharmaceutical industry. So it's like your dollars are all going to the same people. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, supplements are preferable to um, pharmaceuticals in most situations, but the idea that you're kind of supporting the little guy is just, in many cases, not true, with some exceptions. Right, Elliot?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's growing by the day, kind of thing. The industry is, especially over the past decade, and it's like multi-billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Multi-billion-dollar industry, and so whenever that happens, it's you're naturally going to bring in the hawks, kind of thing. They
Mm-hmm.
they start to hover around, and so actually, you see that many so-called alternative companies were actually bought out by the likes of Nestle or whatever.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, very much centralization of power and control in that respect.
Yeah, and it really is about control, I think, too. I think half the impetus for genetic modification and fake foods and all that kind of stuff is control. Like being able to patent, all the corn that's coming out of the ground, if it's patented. Like, there's one company is basically controlling all of that. It's basically like they want to, and we covered this on the last show too, but essentially they want to have complete control of everything grown and processed and distributed. Every bite that every person eats is theirs. You're paying them for it at multiple levels.
And it's that illusion of choice too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, one of the
I don't know. It seems like on one level, it's somewhat of a spiritual thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you consider, like, I don't know, maybe this world is not run by or under the, I don't know how to put it, like our original creator who has our best intentions or our best interests at heart. Is not in charge of the things that are going on here. Say that there's another faction that's sort of moved in and they're trying to replace everything that is natural, the way their creator intended it to be, and trying to push in this whole kind of like fake system without anybody noticing it. Like it's not just like with the food, it's with religion, it's with health, like everything that is natural and normal is being replaced with fakery. And I think they're not just trying to do this with food now, but eventually with humans, with the whole transhumanism thing. I think that on the deepest level, all of this is a spiritual warfare.
Mm-hmm. Well, like they're even trying to replace breast milk now, right? That's the latest fake food that's kind of shot across the bow. I think, as far as I know, it's not actually a thing yet. Like, it's not actually out to the public, but they have basically cultured mammary cells and are producing milk with them, breast milk. So pretty soon, women won't even have to breastfeed anymore. They can just go to the store and buy some breast milk.
Yeah, this article out on CNBC from June the 16th, all breast milk company BioMilk raises $3.5 million from, surprise, surprise, Bill Gates's investment firm. So I was reading this. They're talking about Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, other fake foods. Again, replacing what is natural with something that is complete hooey. But so now BioMilk comes on the scene and they want to create fake breast milk. And the first thing that came to my mind is, where are all the moms going to be? Why can't they breastfeed?
Well, yeah. And I mean,
where are they going? Are they going to be off in some camp? Are they growing these babies in pods somewhere and not going to have mothers to breastfeed them? Why are we going to need this breast milk?
Well,
That's
Tiffany, it says in one of the articles that we read, this is for working moms. This is for moms that, may have a little bit of problems getting the baby to latch on and nursing effectively. And, what blew my mind about this whole thing is that they're doing it because they want to cut down on greenhouse gases.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. They're basically saying that. Yeah, they're basically saying that because infant formula comes from cows, and everybody knows that cows are terrible for the environment, despite the fact that they've been on the planet for God knows how long. And before that, there was, billions of buffalo across North America. But no. Cow farts are destroying the planet. So if we can come up with an alternative to infant formula, it's just so ridiculous. I mean, on the one hand,
not that I'm a fan of infant formula or anything.
Well, exactly, right?
Yes, it is crap, of course, but This doesn't seem like a viable alternative to me. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
I
I'm just old
wonder.
fashioned.
I wonder, honestly, the way I see it is we've done shows on this in the past that breast milk is offering so much more than just the bare nutrition, right? Like it's not just protein and vitamins, et cetera, et cetera. There's like melatonin in there that has to do with the time of day that the nursing is going on. There's the whole bonding experience that goes on there that's like important for infant development. So the idea that you can just replace that with, a lab grown thing is ridiculous. But that being said, if it is better than infant formula because it is actually something produced by mammary cells, it is intended for humans, blah, 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 maybe it would actually be a step up in situations where women actually can't breastfeed, right? And there are some situations like that. So obviously it's going to be far inferior to actual breastfeeding. But I'm wondering if it might be better than infant formula. So
Well, there was one plus side to this because I was reading that they use the mammary epithelial cells. So at least they are using human mammary epithelial cells versus some other animal. But I guess that they showed proof that their artificial breast milk can produce casein and lactose. And so these are the proteins that are found in natural human breast milk that are important for growth. But like you said, there's all other types of components in breast milk, some of them that we don't even know what they are.
exactly.
So this is undoubtedly going to be an inferior product. I don't know if it'll be as inferior as the formula, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And the problem is that whenever something like this comes out, right, and they have the idea that this is for a specific target group, right? So they say this is for women who, for whatever reason, can't breastfeed, or kids who have allergies to their mother's breast milk or something. Some kind of situation where it's actually necessary. It never stops there, right? They always try to expand the market, right? And you know that even if it doesn't come out like this at first, they're going to push it so that it's basically starts getting marketed to moms on the go, right? And eventually it's just to moms who can't be bothered. So eventually they'll probably eventually get to the point where the same way sports drinks, at first it was like marketed towards people who actually did sports. And then after a while, it got to the point where they were saying, actually, this is better than water. Drinking our sports drink is more hydrating than water. So everybody should be drinking this all of the time. It's going to get to that point. Yeah, because electrolytes. Even your plants need it.
Well, another thing that crossed my mind, and I don't know why, for some reason, the climate that we're living in just makes me think of conspiracies just everywhere. But like you said, Doug, like moms who are too busy, or maybe moms who can't get their baby to latch on. But what if there were no moms involved at all? What if the state became so powerful that on birth, your child becomes a ward of the state? You can have visitation, but somebody's going to have to feed these babies. So we're going to need another form of breast milk.
Yeah. Well, that's the ultimate.
Because your mom's not going to be there.
That's like the ultimate feminist agenda, essentially.
Yeah.
So
because the family is just so overbearing and awful, and to be a wife and a mother or to take care of the home and children is so oppressive.
And degrading.
Well, and that's what's interesting about, the way that this article was written. It's like BioMilk co-founder and CEO Michelle Egger and another CSO Leela Strickland. It's two women. And of course, one of them did a stint for the Gates Foundation. So and so, here, just like you were saying about the feminist agenda, like this is freedom. These are two very, smart women that are just taking on this initiative and making it better. And I wouldn't be surprised too if it was for countries like Africa, you know what I mean? Or India, or you know what I'm saying? Like pushing it over there first to see what kind of side effects happen. Or I also think they probably, with those mammalian epithelial cells that you were talking about, Tiff, like I wouldn't be surprised if they use gene drive technology too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly, talking about you're starting it in Africa first, that's exactly what they did with the infant formula before. Mm-hmm. Nestle was pushing the infant formula over there and telling all the mothers that it was superior to breast milk and they should stop breastfeeding and use their infant formula instead. It led to it was a disaster, an absolute disaster, and they just kind of washed their hands of it and walked away, having made millions, you know?
All to combat world hunger.
Oh, of course. Yeah. It always comes guised in like a cloak of philanthropy.
Ways.
Yeah.
And it works too.
Yeah.
Because it's not like there aren't still over 1 billion people in the world who aren't hungry right now, given all the technology and all the food that is grown. Mm-hmm. People are still hungry.
Yeah.
But, then the grand tradition of all these mega corporations and the people who run them, they are so fixated on what their final result is. They just double down in the face of all evidence to the contrary that their schemes are not working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how many years
not
have
that
we
the
had
people
GMOs?
At the very top believe that these schemes have the purpose of helping the world or anything, but
no. Like how many
years? But if you create dependence, then you have that control.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was just going to say, like, how many years have we had GMOs? And, when they came out, the great promise was that, it's going to help feed the world. It's going to save the world. World hunger will be
an increase
end.
Yields.
Yeah, increase yields and all this kind of stuff. Have any of those promises come to pass? No. We just have crops that can drink poison or create poison. That's it. Yields are not better. They're not getting more food. Hunger is not going down.
And it becomes kind of cyclical too. Like, the whole golden rice was first introduced in Asia and the Philippines. And they claimed they did it to help people get more vitamin A, right? Like we're going to genetically modify rice to be able to help with vitamin A deficiency, especially in these Asian countries where, the rice is a staple food. And then when it came to actually doing the testing on how much vitamin A you actually got from the golden rice, I mean, you had to eat an ungodly amount to even make it worth it. So, but then that you kind of see that didn't really take off. But then again, like 10 or 15 years later, they try it again. The golden rice in Asia. And they figure maybe people's attention span is so bad that they're not going to realize we already tried this and it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, it was basically discovered that the longer it was on the shelf, the more degradation there was of the beta carotene. And yeah, by the time people were actually eating it, there was like none left. But yeah.
And they called it golden rice because through the genetic modification, it turned this like piss yellow color. And they realized like, oh my gosh, people, in Asia, like it's sometimes referred to as China white as rice, right? Because it's white, but it was golden color. And so whoever created it, Gates or whoever, some philanthropic organization, they're like, let's just call it golden rice because everyone loves gold.
I love gold.
But just again, mass manipulation of your mind and not questioning, it's a good thing. They want to feed all these Asians golden rice, And we won't even get into the potential of sterility in the rice or the corn or, all the God knows what added benefits of philanthropic Bill Gates and his friends.
Yeah. Exactly. What's coming in through the back door with that stuff? Yeah.
Well, back to that first article written way back in 2011. Seems like a very long time ago. 6 ways food is being used as a weapon. the first thing they named was food inflation, which we're seeing right now. So they're saying that they can purposely inflate the price of food just through Wall Street speculation and excessive money printing, which is happening right now as we speak. They're just printing and printing with no end, like quantitative easing. Is this quantitative QE infinity? Is that what they're calling it now? They're just printing, printing, printing. And you go to the grocery store. I haven't noticed it so much with non-meat products yet, just a little bit.
Mm.
But meat, beef especially, the price has doubled
Mm.
like in the last few months, I've noticed. And I mean, you can't say that this is all, I mean, at the very source of it is all fakery from this hoax of a pandemic that they're running. But if they're uh, closing down slaughterhouses and food packing plants, and people are allegedly testing positive for COVID, and the 3 day supply chain or just in time supply chain is breaking down, I can see why the prices would go up. You can say that those are all natural occurrences to the COVID pandemic, or you could say that it's completely manufactured in one way or the other. But we are seeing that the price of food is going up a lot. So if people can't afford to buy food, you kind of you you got them.
Yeah.
And if you're in control of the food, they'll do whatever they can do in order to feed their families. Whether it's submitting to birth control policies like they're using on a countrywide level, or whatever policies that they choose to put in place. If your kids are hungry, you want to feed them.
Mm-hmm. They'll all have to become climate activists.
Yeah.
Drinking bio milk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Well, the same thing goes for food shortages too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're seeing that. I've never seen so many empty food shelves ever in my lifetime. I mean, like when this pandemic first broke out, there were loads and loads of empty food shelves. The meat department would be completely just ransacked, and all you see there was some Beyond Burgers or something.
Exactly. That's what's
It
always left
seems
behind.
like maybe in the last 3 to 4 weeks, like the shelves at the grocery stores, at least where I live, they're looking like they're back to normal for the most part. But for
Yeah.
a while, it was really strange because I never had an experience seeing a bunch of empty food shelf, like the whole milk section or the bread section wiped out.
Hmm. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm lucky that I didn't see that where I am, really.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really see food shortages at all. Not to say that it won't happen in the future, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Europe seems to be a little bit more better off than us 24/7 guinea pigs here in the US of A.
Yeah.
But like you were talking about, Tiff, with shortages too, just also being only able to purchase one of, say you want to buy like a pork butt or a beef, that all the signs around the grocery store limit one per person, or,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the psychological operation in the mind of something like that. Like say you got your paycheck or your stimulus check and you decided you wanted to spend the whole thing to buy food to can, to be a little bit prepared, and you go to the grocery store and you're not allowed to do that. You're only allowed to buy one of each thing. I mean, and back to being a parent with kids, like all of a sudden that paranoia switch is turned on and you start to panic a little bit, and we saw a lot of panic buying of toilet paper in the beginning, but, also around the US, people with money could buy all kinds of stuff, and then other people were kind of just left with the scraps and whatnot. But I think it's interesting how the Beyond Burger and fake cheese and all that was the only thing left on some of the shelves. So that maybe even gave them a picture of the fact that, yeah, people just still aren't ready for that. They don't really want that. They're not really that interested.
No. Yeah, despite the push, it seems that people
Yeah.
still, when the shit really hits the fan, nobody wants those goddamn Beyond Burgers. Like, nobody wants that shit. Everybody
No.
wants real food. It's like, no, we're in a crisis situation. I need some real food now. Okay, we're not joking around anymore. Give me the real food. Yeah.
So, as with all things, wait and see, right? Wait and see what comes next. I mean, we didn't go through all 6 ways of the control of food, but we've talked in the past about additives, and we talked a little bit last week about regulations, and then one last thing is the weather. It's been very strange, and as farmers know, you are really, every day can ruin you financially. It could be devastating. And so, for a long time, the GMO thing was kind of pushed onto farmers as being drought resistant, or able to handle a lot more environmental change. I think that was all just BS. But again, like we've said so many times, there are solutions. There are, you can have a little square foot garden in your backyard. You can use potted plants in your house. I mean, trying to have a plan, food storage, a little bit of food storage, even if it's just figuring out how many people are in your family and how much it would take to feed everyone for a month. Just being a little bit more prepared, having that knowledge, can kind of help do away with that paranoia that a lot of people start to experience, and then feel like they have no resources or access. That's just something off the top of my head. Anyone else have anything? We want to try and end on a more positive note.
Yeah, it's
just
not
knowing
hopeless.
this is going to be something that will help you. I just have a quote here from the end of this article, in that 6 ways. It's by Franklin Roosevelt, and it talks about true individual freedom cannot exist without economic security and independence. People who are hungry and out of a job are the stuff of which dictatorships are made.
Oh.
So,
Well,
Didn't they
isn't that
just rip down
interesting?
his statue?
Probably. They don't want to know that.
Yeah.
No,
so get your food stuff up,
get
find
ready for
your
the
own
dictatorship.
little home business, start weaving baskets, I don't know, selling canaries, whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody have anything else?
I think that's it.
Yeah, just be prepared.
Be prepared.
Yeah, wake up every day being open to all possibilities.
There you go. That's good advice.
So thank you all, co-hosts, and Damien, for those images that help really get the message across of what we're trying to share here. And please like and subscribe below. And thank you all for tuning in. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.